Each ray that bursts forth from the center point of the original thought of Source at the Big Bang point spiral outward from the center point, following a counterclockwise spin, stepping source energy down in quantum. We can picture this counterclockwise step-down spin as thinking of unscrewing a screw from a hole. As the screw expands outward from the center point, it spins counterclockwise, moving further outward, away from the center point of the energy or source, or away from the center point of the heat, if you want to think of it as heat. The energy of Source steps back up in quantum following the Divine Trinity, which is division and replication, or building quantum of energy, and merging with the step-down points. This means that the process of stepping Source energy back up in quantum occurs via energy division and replication, and the energy that returns to the center point of the original thought of Source does so 3 times greater in quantum than it was when it began the step-down process from the center point, which occurs via division and replication and building quantum of Source energy. This is why Source is eternal. If we desire to understand the creation process and why things occur as they do, we must remember, or at least try, to look at both sides of creation at the same time. It's kind of like having a 180-degree view at the same time with a foot in both outer creation and inner creation. God spoke and said, "Let there be light." All layers of creation, inside and outside, are created as a result of light, reflecting the thoughts of Source held within the original thought of Source. And this applies to all individuated faces of Source as well. This is why what we perceive as our reality is reflecting from within us. Nothing within creation is actually solid or manifest matter. And the illusion of solid, manifest matter is created as the energy of Source steps down into lower quantum of reflected light particles. The further away from the center point of the original thought of Source the light particles reach or expand outward, the more diffused or spread out they become and continually get colder and colder. This is why the illusion of matter manifest is actually frozen light particles of energy. This eternal process of creation is exactly how our thoughts co-create with the energy of Source, while expressing as a smaller quantum of Source energy as your individual expression. As you co-create with Source by thinking, where are you co-creating your thoughts? Where are you placing your thought co-creations? Just something for you to think about at this time, and see if you can remember the answer to that question. We'll discover it later on in the program in case you haven't yet, but I have a feeling you will have by the time we get to this point. The steps of creation we have looked at so far have not been able to be seen or known for 26,000 years on planet Earth, because the energy of Source that holds that knowledge has not been able to flow unto the planetary system. And it is quite true that the life grid that was presented to Earth as the truth in 2000 is the way the life grid has expressed within the Earth system and all life forms within the Earth system for 26,000 years. But it is not the eternal life grid. And soon we will be comparing that grid and the eternal life grid to discover why. It is not that the reality of that grid was incorrect, but what was not able to be known by anyone on Earth prior to July 2013 is that planetary Stargate 12 had been attacked 26,000 years ago during the Atlantean time cycle. And since that point in time, the entire planetary system has been cut off by 2/3 quantum of Source energy. There had been information shared on planet that correlates with the life grid shared in 2000, that the planetary system held 2/3 distortion as a result of distorted life forms. But it was not able to be known, because of the distortion, that the reason the planetary system holds 2/3 quantum distortion was a result of 2/3 quantum drop of Source energy. It is important to clarify again that the truth now opening within the planetary system and now being shared with you is not of the intention to prove anyone wrong about anything that has been presented as information thought to be true for 26,000 years. Everyone is right. Everyone has always been right. But the distortion itself has been responsible for what has been presented within the reality field as truth, or, as most of it, non-truth that has been thought to be true, simply because the current information was not available for anyone to have an awareness, and Source is healing itself, and we will understand more of what that means as we continue. But it is because Source is healing itself that the truth is now turning back on and becoming accessible within the planetary system. As a result of Source healing itself and continued healing, all life forms will remember the truth. They may not all remember it at exactly the same time, but they will remember the truth, because Source will heal them to allow them to remember the truth. This is why it does not matter if anyone is currently able to accept any of this information as truth. If it is true, you will remember it yourself, and you will know then whether or not it is true. It is not possible for myself, for any individuated face of Source incarnate on the planet, to access all information there is to access within the planetary structure, simply because of the condition of the system. And there is a whole lot more knowledge to rediscover from within the flows of Source energy that is now flowing through the planet and each life form on the planet that is keyed to specific flows of that knowledge as their unique face of Source. And this is yet one important aspect of the importance of the whole. We are all Source. The entire reality field is Source, and each individuated life form, each person, each plant, each blade of grass, hold their specific individuated quantum of Source energy that allows the entire picture that we call life on Earth to exist. And that is a whole lot of energy, and is why it is not possible for any one person, any individuated life form, to be able to hold all of that energy open within their Earth expression. Nothing within the Earth reality field would be able to heal if it were not for the whole. Every precious life form on planet Earth is precious, unique, and an eternal life form because it is Source energy. You carry your unique knowledge, your unique expression as Source. You carry an important piece within you to rediscover that is important for the whole. You are an important piece of the puzzle that allows the complete, beautiful picture. And without that important piece of Source that you are, there would be a hole within the picture, and Source creates imbalance, so there are no holes within any pictures. It is just a matter of turning your unique piece back on to shine forth within the hologram. And I am quite excited to know that all of the pieces are going to turn back on, and everyone is going to share the piece that they hold, because I'm nosy and I want to know it all. To allow us to understand what occurred to the eternal life grid of the Earth system, we will need to look at some of the drama that is now history. But first we need to look at the creation of the eternal life grid and understand how Source creates that, to allow us an understanding of what happened to the eternal life grid 26,000 years ago, and what that has to do with Earth history since that time, as well as what it means for the major event that will occur on December 12, 2013. We need to try to retain awareness that all of inner and outer creation occur instantly and simultaneously at the Big Bang point. When the critical mass of energy quantum occurs at the 15 ring span point, at the center point of the original thought of Source, the explosion of energy of the critical mass creates light and sound. And when that explosion occurs inside the original thought of Source, the light shines through all layers to replicate as refracted light particles that shine on the inside of the original thought of Source. All of outer creation is refracted reflected light and sound. And space, time, and matter particles do not occur within outer creation until the energy of Source continues the step-down quantum process following the light rays that burst forth at the Big Bang point. Each ray of energy that bursts into outer creation at the Big Bang point does so as neutral charged energy. That's important to know. Source energy as neutral charge with the potential to become either electrical or magnetic. Each Big Bang ray of energy continues to follow the Divine Trinity quantum step-down sequence and simultaneously creates all of outer creation. But we're going to look at that process as if it occurs in steps so we can understand what is occurring. The vertical pillar of the outer structure is created first, since we're looking at it in steps, on each ray. And since we are looking at creation from our perceptual view on Earth, we will simply focus on one ray. But all processes occur on every single ray of the Big Bang. Creation of the vertical pillar creates individuated seeds of Source identity as the energy of Source continues to step down in quantum, bursting out on the ray of the Big Bang. The individuated seeds of Source identity of the foundation structure of outer creation first create the individuated seeds of Source for the outer 8 layers of foundation structure. But the same process applies to all smaller, eternal life forms that birth into outer creation. The same process applies to you, birthing forth as a ray, or you might conceptualize it as a spark of Source if you're comparing it with bursting ray on the Big Bang that creates creation. But you're still a ray of Source energy bursting out from the center point to come into outer creation and play as a smaller quantum face of Source. You also do a Big Bang, but on a much smaller quantum of energy as a personal identity expression of Source. As we look at the creation of outer structure, please keep in mind that this structure is your personal structure as well, and is the structure and procedure you, as an individuated face of Source, follow to enter into and exit from outer creation. You also step your personal energy quantum down through all 4 layers of inner creation and all 8 layers of outer creation to allow you to get to the point where you now find yourself on Earth. As an individuated face of Source, you step your energy down in quantum in the exact same manner, which means you must place a quantum of your personal quantum of Source energy in each level of the vertical pillar step-down points to allow your personal energy to reach a low enough quantum of energy to then allow you to experience the illusion of matter manifest reality fields. As we look at the process of creation, of the structure of creation, we need to remember that this applies to our personal aspect as well. All of eternal creation occurs via the exact same process. So we do not need to individuate the process between the structure of creation that allows for the reality planes and the smaller life form expressions of Source that go to play within those reality planes. When you close your eyes and look at yourself as if you're seeing yourself inside of your head, not your physical body, but the expression that you may think of inside of your head, you're doing that from your 3-point seat of consciousness, and that expression of yourself as Source does not polarize. You do not polarize your personal energy until stepping into polarized reality planes that then allows for the light and sound illusion of the physical body form. But your conscious awareness, your thoughts, knowing yourself however you currently know yourself, is not polarized energy. And that is why you do not see yourself other than your expression of your physical body when you do something like look in a mirror or look at your physical body form. But you do not see your polarized expression that is thinking and creating while you're thinking as standing in front of yourself. Now we're going to look at this image analogy, the eternal life grid, layer 1, outer creation, sequence 1, birth of vertical consciousness, seats of identity. The individuated seats of source conscious identity are created first, creating the vertical pillar. These seats of source conscious identity is source as non-polarized energy expressions, just simply smaller quantum of source. But it's source, sitting within those seats, going out from the center point of the original thought of source, going out into the illusion of creation to play. And that's who you are. The seats of conscious identity do not polarize, but remain neutral charge conscious expressions of source that express as smaller quantum expressions of source. The individuated seats of identity are created following the Divine Trinity and continue the quantum step-down process. From the 13th point of ring span 13 of the light and sound fields, the ring span 13 at the center point, the vertical pillar is created as seats 12, 9, 6, and 3 on all layers of creation of eternal life. Be that layer expressing as the foundation structure of outer creation, the multiverse, the universal time matrix galaxy, a solar system, or any smaller life form, from the micro to the macro in size, all hold their individuated seats of source identity within each layer of inner creation and outer creation. On this image analogy, we have our 4-point axis pulled out from the center point. We have the light and sound fields in the center, 13, 14, and 15, and the reflected light and sound fields on the outer rim of the original thought of source, 13, 14, and 15. From the inside center point, 13, of the light and sound fields, the energy of source steps down on the bursting Big Bang ray as non-polarized energy and steps all the way out to the rim. I'm calling it a rim because we're looking at it on a circle on a piece of paper, of the outer 13th ring span point of the reflected light and sound fields, creating a vertical pillar of non-polarized energy. We are now at the base 12 step down and step up points of source energy within outer creation, but source energy still steps down following the Divine Trinity, 12, 9, 6, and 3, and then another 12. And we'll see in just a few moments here what that other 12 point is. The 12, 9, 6, 3 points span out, stepping source energy down outward from the center point of the original thought of source. And as they span outward in their step-down process from the 12 to the 9 to the 6 to the 3, it creates 12 sub-frequency bands within each of those spanning points of the next birth of a frequency band. The 12, 9, 6, and 3 are frequency bands, and each hold 12 sub-frequency bands. If you don't have any concept of what a sub-frequency band might be, you could think of a radio tower that sends a radio signal outward, and you can pick up the signal via your radio receiver. In this analogy, you could think of the radio tower itself as the frequency band, and the radio energy waves that span outward from the tower as sub-frequency bands. The further you move away from the radio tower, the weaker the radio signal becomes, and the longer the ring spans of the radio waves expand. If you move out of range, then you no longer pick up that radio signal on your radio. And now we're going to look at the Eternal Life Grid, image analogy, layer 1 still, outer creation, sequence 2, birth of frequency bands and polarized reality fields. Now remember, this is all occurring simultaneously, instantly at the Big Bang, but we're looking at it as if it occurs in steps. As the 12, 9, 6, and 3 points step down, instantly and simultaneously, frequency bands are created. The 12, 9, 6, and 3 points step down following the base 12 step down sequence on the vertical ray axis and create 12 non-polarized sub-frequency bands below each seat. Instantly and simultaneously, the 12-point polarizes on the horizontal ray of energy that exists directly below it on the Consciousness Highway Unified Field Grid. The horizontal rays, or lines of energy, are created by the vertical rays, or lines of energy, of the inner systems that birth out on the horizontal plane of our circle of the original thought of Source. The non-polarized 12-point seat replicates and divides and creates polarized frequency bands 11 and 10. The 9-point non-polarized seat creates polarized frequency bands 8 and 7. The 6-point non-polarized seat creates frequency bands 5 and 4. And the 3-point non-polarized seat creates polarized frequency bands 2 and 1. The polarized frequency bands create the diagonal lines of the consciousness highway. The polarization of energy creates spheres of energy that then become base magnetic and base positive. As you see it on this grid, the 11, 8, 5, 2 is base electrical, and the 10, 7, 4, 1 is base magnetic. And if you notice, those frequency bands of polarized energy follow the Divine Trinity step-down sequence. When the 12-point steps down and interacts with the energy of the horizontal line of the consciousness highway and divides itself, the base electrical 11-point spins, following the direction of the red arrow on this graph here, where I have that red arrow pointing that way. And the 10-point base magnetic spins following the direction of the red arrow next to it. This creates spheres of polarized energy which spin in opposite directions from each other, but exist on the same horizontal plane of the consciousness highway, each with a different quantum of source energy, and are the points within creation where the polarized reality fields occur within outer creation. Polarized reality planes are created on the horizontal planes of 11-10, 8-7, 5-4, and 2-1. But we are looking at this on layer 1 of creation, before the light ray of the Big Bang bent and reflected back to the center point. The steps are the same within layer 2 of outer creation, when the light ray bends and goes back to the center point. But the grid structures point in different directions from where they do on layer 1 of outer creation, which means source energy is spinning in different directions from layer 1 of outer creation and hold less quantum of source energy. This is why creation can exist in the same space at the same time. Source is absolutely wonderful in creating such a process to create creation through, to allow all of creation to exist in the same point, non-existent point that doesn't require space because thought takes up no space, as thought, eternally within Source, within the body, mind, conscious aspect of Source. It just amazes me to know this information now. We're going to look at the eternal life grid, layer 2 of outer creation. The light ray has now bent and returned to the center point. All steps continue the exact same process as on layer 1 of outer creation, but step the energy of Source down to 0-point quantum level at the 12-point, the bottom 12-point, which plugs into the first 12-point of layer 1 of outer creation. And remember, I told you that the 0-point quantum level doesn't mean zero quantum. It's whatever the lowest quantum energy of Source, that Source energy will step down to. On layer 1 of outer creation, we saw a bottom 12-point on the eternal life grid. And this is the 0-point quantum for that layer 1 side of outer creation, and the beginning point of quantum step down for layer 2 of outer creation. So the bottom 12-point of the eternal life grid on layer 1 is the top 12-point of the eternal life grid on layer 2. Layer 2 of outer creation creates the vertical pillar, the non-polarized seats of conscious identity at the 12, 9, 6, and 3-point frequency bands, and the polarized frequency bands of 11, 10, 8, 7, 5, 4, 2, 1, where reality field planes are created, which allows stages or planets where Source can experience and play, creating anything that is thought. Our universal Milky Way time matrix exists in the last layer of outer creation, which pulls out from the center point toward the number 12 at the top of this image. And it pulls out there because that is the Divine Trinity step-down point at which it births. We are experiencing our reality field, Earth, what we call Earth, life on Earth. In frequency bands, we're experiencing it within the holographic reality field of frequency bands 2 and 1 in the outer level of outer creation. The planet Earth holographic reality field exists in our universal Milky Way time matrix at frequency bands 1 and 2, shining forth as reflected light. This layer of outer creation that holds our Milky Way time matrix is the only layer within creation. Now, not just our time matrix, but the only level within the outer layer, the second layer of creation of the multiverse, which means there's an uncountable number of time matrix systems within this layer of creation that allows source energy to step down low enough in quantum or become cool enough to allow for free will. And it is only within this layer of creation where it is possible for distortion to occur. The last time matrix that bursts on each ray of the Big Bang is the only level within creation where the energy of source steps down low enough in quantum to allow the opposite expression of any balanced thought. All previous layers of outer creation hold within them reality field planes, but the energy of source is still too high in quantum within those other layers to allow imbalance to occur, and is why all of those reality fields exist in balance with source energy. When you're experiencing within outer creation in a system that exists in the outer layer, outer level of outer creation, such as we are on planet Earth, the layer 1, the first layer that is created before the time matrix system that we're experiencing within is created. That we would call that layer 1 of our time matrix system. Actually, that exists on the flip side of our Milky Way time matrix system. So if you look at an image, a space image from the 3D science, and they have pictures that they show us of other galaxies, because they can't take a picture of our galaxy, they'd have to get the camera outside of the galaxy to do that. And that hasn't been possible yet. But when you look at a galaxy shining like that in what we call outer space, it looks kind of like a flat pancake hanging out in space. Our Milky Way time matrix system does look very similar to such as the Andromeda galaxy system that Earth science has taken pictures of. And the layer 1 of that we're looking at in these image analogies of our time matrix galaxy is on the underneath side from where we perceive ourselves as sitting on top of it. And in other information that has been presented to the planet in the last few years, there was talked about in talking about time cycles, because there are an uncountable number of time cycles within Source. In talking about time cycles, it was spoken within that information concerning turnaround cycles. That is where the reality fields exist, that information was talking about and calling turnaround cycles. So when you're on experiencing within this layer 2 of outer creation. And you're able to ascend to follow the ray, which is the return path of source energy that you burst forth into outer creation from the center point of source to experience, play, have fun. In the process of playing, experiencing, having fun as a face of source within outer creation, to experience everything that source thinks, because source desires to experience everything that source thinks. In the process of doing that, an eternal life form is supposed to continue to self-generate source energy and merge back into all of the step-down points, stepping up the personal quantum of source energy and merging back into all of those higher step-down points of source energy and experiencing everything, every step, every highway, every possibility that there is to experience that is desired to be experienced. And that process is what has become known as the process of ascension, or returning to oneness at the center point with source. That hasn't been able to occur on planet Earth a lot longer than 26,000 years, but certainly not since the extremity of distortion occurred 26,000 years ago in the Atlantean time cycle when planetary Stargate 12 was shut down by 2/3 quantum. Because that hasn't been able to occur because there hasn't been enough energy of source to allow it to occur. The Divine Trinity was shut off when 2/3 quantum loss of source energy occurred, and no life form within that has birth within the hologram since that occurred could self-generate enough energy of source quantum to merge with any higher levels within the creation process. That's what it means by being trapped within time, trapped within a time cycle. And so for 26,000 years, all life forms that have continued to incarnate into this holographic reality field called Earth has become trapped within this reality field. We'll understand more of that later on when we get to the point where we remember exactly what the distortion is. Source does desire balance, and this is expressed through every level of creation. But Source also desires to experience all thoughts. So, Source creates a playing field that is composed of light and sound to allow a place within creation where all thoughts can be experienced. Being in balance with Source is pretty straightforward. When you see the eternal conscious process and see that nothing is leaning to one side or the other, but everything is in balance. When anything leans to one side or the other, as in a teeter-totter, it is because something has occurred within the structure of the eternal life grid to create imbalance. The fact that there is less quantum of source energy in the outer layer of outer creation means that the light particles are farther apart from each other and colder than anywhere else within creation. This allows light particles to take on the illusion of manifest matter as they collide into each other and group together in specific ways and are fused together by higher, hotter energy. But even the process of colder light particles merging together to flesh out matter substance occurs via Source design. Source creates all of creation per the original thought encryption or thought intention of Source. And within that original Source encryption, there already exists what Source intends each particle of light to do and express as within every layer of creation. But within free will systems, as we are in the outer level of outer creation, free will can choose to change what those light particles are going to do and express as. We can think of the light particles in the outer layer of outer creation as frozen light, and this makes those frozen light particles much denser than anywhere else in creation, and allows for the illusion of matter particles as we see matter manifest in the earth hologram, which includes our physical body form, and is why our physical body form is made of the same light particles, expressing as elements and chemicals that the body is composed of. And the elements and chemicals that the body is composed of is the same elements and chemicals that the earth body is composed of. That's why, in order to experience playing on within the earth body and calling that play life on earth, we have to put part of our conscious energy into the light particles expressing as elements and chemicals of the earth body to create a vehicle, which is our physical body form, to allow us to walk around on the earth and have the life experience. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a body vehicle that would allow us to do that. We would simply be conscious energy. We could certainly walk around, walk within, move through the light and sound particles that compose the earth body. But our conscious energy is higher in quantum, which we could think of as hotter, than the light and sound particles that compose the elements and chemicals that compose the earth body. So no one would know you were here doing that. That's in body, has their consciousness in a physical matter body in the earth reality field. No one would know that you were here doing that. You wouldn't be able to interact with anyone. So you'd be having an experience on your own or with other faces of source expressing as non-embodied matter consciousness. The light particles of the higher reality fields in our Milky Way time matrix galaxy are higher in energy quantum, and so express as different states of energy than we experience in the Earth hologram, and to our awareness on Earth seem to be invisible, but they are still very much around and within us, simply expressing as higher quantum energy that we currently cannot perceive. Because when the part of our conscious energy that we place into the light and sound particles that the earth body is composed of to allow us to have a life experience on that planet/star, it shuts off. When we do that, we shut off higher quantum levels of energy from our awareness by cooling, when we step our part of our conscious energy into the light and sound fields that compose the earth reality field, it cools that part of our energy, our conscious energy that we put in there, to the same coolness level, we'll say, the same quantum level as the light and sound particles of the earth body. And from our physical vehicle aspect of perceiving reality with our known five senses, we cannot perceive that higher quantum of energy. That still very much exists. It's not gone. It's just no longer available to our physical vehicle senses. But the eternal life expressions of Source are not supposed to forget the rest of creation. They're not supposed to forget that they're Source. They're not supposed to forget that they have part of their energy of Source within a planetary holographic reality system to play, to have fun and experience a life experience within those light and sound particles. And it's because of the distortion, the lack of source energy that has been available within this holographic reality field for 26,000 years that the life forms on Earth have forgotten the truth of who they are, that they're source playing within a holographic reality field. All of creation is energy, and all of creation is the conscious energy of Source. Earth science wonders what this energy is that they theorize about and call black energy or dark energy. They will discover that one day soon, but not until the people of Earth have healed to a point to remember that what they call black energy or dark energy is the conscious energy of Source. Earth science wonders, bless them, in theorizing about space, trying to figure out what makes space, where does space come from? And they are discovering that what they perceive as space is expanding, it's growing. How can that do that? Well, we're seeing how that can occur. If a life form is not connected to the consciousness highway, unified field grid of creation, it is not an eternal life form, but is a finite life form. If there is not a 12 point at the top and bottom of the life grid, then inner structural damage has occurred that takes the life being out of balance with the eternal life grid, because the energy of Source cannot flow through the system the way that Source created it to flow. Yeah, we have a lot more to look at. I was just listening here a moment to see if we wanted to move into looking at just the eternal life grid by itself next within this segment, but trying to be mindful of time and trying to be mindful of not making it so long that you might get tired of sitting and squirming in your seat. So we'll put that in the next part of this series.